shooting this inside a taxi on the way from one Airbnb to another. The nomad life isn't all that easy. There's times that we have to change ubicaciones. This one is one of those times, and the reason is internet connection. So let's talk a little bit about how do we get around that, the importance of having that internet connection to do the online work from anywhere. The thrill and enjoyment of being able to be an online digital nomad is great. But let's talk about some of the downsides and some different ways that we might get around that. So first of all, we book a lot of our stays through Airbnb, and then try to make a connection with the people. If it's a good place, to go back to the same place again and connect with them directly rather than through Airbnb. So, Airbnb for the initial bookings because of the fantastic reviews and rating system and the information on there. Great system. Lots of data, lots of options in Airbnb. Make sure you read the reviews and make sure you pay attention to the internet speed. So when they list Wi-Fi, which they all do, they will sometimes put a speed beside it. If they say high speed, that means it's going to be 50 megabits per second or more download speed. The upload speed, it's hard to say. So the place we were at just recently, they said 5 megabits per second. We thought, okay, well that's just enough. We'll be fine. Of course, that is the download speed. The upload was 0.05, dropping to 0 a lot of the time. And it was just not usable. It was dropping sometimes. And we did see a review that said from last year that there was internet issues, and the owner had replied that it's fixed. So make sure you check that directly. What I do is I send the Airbnb host speedtest.net and ask them to send back to run the test and do the specific numbers. What's the upload and download speeds in megabits per second, please, por favor. So that's the first thing. Check. Well, the place we were staying in, Oaxaca, had pretty much the ideal setup because they had a Starlink internet connection, which doesn't rely on the local cell towers or the local Telmex. All of this is pretty unreliable technology in a lot of places in Mexico. Starlink bypasses the middle person, goes straight to the satellite. Anyway, we discovered that in those small towns, great, we had Starlink, but then if the power went out, we still lost our internet. Of course, Starlink needs power. So we talked to the owner, who became our friend, and he actually installed a battery backup on the Starlink. He was working online as well, so that helped. So there was a uninterruptible power supply attached to the Starlink. So even if the power went out, we still had internet. And we use laptop computers, of course, so we have battery in them. So when we discovered how slow the internet was in this past place, we worked with the host to try and speed it up. He actually came and called Telmex from the place and tried to reboot the router and all different things that we tried. I carry a cable connection for my laptop. That didn't help either. It was definitely the speed from the modem to the rest of the world that was the problem. And the host showed us the Telmex account. It was an 80 gigabyte account, but that's the maximum amount of throughput you're allowed to use. And then they guarantee a maximum upload and maximum download. And the reality it was nowhere near the maximums. So I think that the town we were in gradually built its infrastructure, gradually built up the number of people using the internet, and the little skinny wire that goes out to the real world was overloaded. So in spite of the different plans that he might have recommended, we really would have needed to go satellite, such as Starlink, to get around that. So that was a bit frustrating. So the next thing we tried was cell phones. So both my partner and I have pretty good data plans. And so we tethered to our phones. We found running the speed test on the phones, that phone speed was much faster. But that's still not completely reliable. So we found that it worked, but it was barely good enough for video conferencing. I needed to turn off my video if I was going to share a screen. And even then it was a bit unreliable coming and going. And of course it can get costly after a while if you have to keep upgrading your data plan. So we decided we needed to move, and that's what we're doing now. So in future we'll be a little bit more careful about asking for that speed. And let's see, a couple more tips. Microsoft 365 gives you the capability of downloading files or keeping them offline with OneDrive for Business. So I use that feature a lot if I know I'm going to be in an airplane or in a place with poor internet. While I still have half-decent internet, I will right-click on the folder that I want to be working on and say, make available offline. So it'll download those files so they're available, and then when I reconnect to the internet, they're uploaded automatically. That works really well. Otherwise, it's really hard to get around the lack of internet connection. So make sure you got it and it works well. I also have a Rogers Canada, US, Mexico plan on my cell phone now. That's working quite well. That made it easier as well. It's kind of the Roam like home model, but with a global coverage of the 3 countries built on my monthly rate, which is a little bit higher, but definitely worth it. This was important as well because it allowed me to keep my original number. Any other ideas that you have to share for other digital nomads or for me and my partner, I would love to see them in the comments or contact me directly. I am at your service. Maybe not with a poor internet service, but let's see what happens. Talk to you soon.